Hi. So here we are looking at Chapter 4, Essay Assignment. By this time, of course, you're pretty familiar with writing essays. You recognize, I assume, the front page format here with the name block, Bruce Banner, of course. That guy he had quite the temper, by the way. Gotta watch out for people like that. My name, English 101, the date, upper right-hand corner, last name, page number. The title, remember the content title, right? Now, when we do our thesis outlines, we put author and page, or question number, the author and the question number. But if we're doing something, when we're writing our essay, we don't want to do that, right? We want something that sells the essay. So here we have a trip into ourselves. Now, this person, Bruce Banner, Dr. Bruce Banner, in fact, wrote about the double, right? The use of the double, which is, of course, a factor in Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, right, which is in our textbook. So that's why this student, chose to write. Doppelgangers are commonly used in literature and entertainment to represent issues or societal concerns. So there's the lead, right? That's kind of an introduction into the hook. These allegories often represent the conflicts or mainstream questions of a time frame in which it was written. The doppelganger allows the writer to explore the contradictions in human nature, expressing fears and concerns by creating an alter ego. Although the use of a single alternate personality might be lacking to fully describe human psychology, the use of doppelgangers, such as in Robert Louis Stevenson's The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and the more contemporary version of the Hulk, interesting for Bruce Banner to be writing about the Hulk, is an effective literary tool to explore different aspects of human nature, such as fear, anger, and even evil. Okay, so we have hook, subject, thesis, right? In this case, we're going to look at the Hulk as an example of the double, right? A double which, of course, reflects what Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde was also about. Now, remember what we like to do. We like to, first of all, have a concession. Concession, as you recall, are the arguments opposed to our position. So if we say that the doppelganger is a great way to explore human nature, then we say, well, maybe not totally. Here we say the duality of a doppelganger has some limitations. Okay, so that's a nice way of saying, okay, it's not wrong, but it's limited. Maybe human personalities are better explained as multiples, not opposites. So in other words, the argument that we're one or the other might be too limiting. Even Stevenson, the creator of the classic Doppelganger, suggested this in the words of Dr. Jekyll. By the way, when you have a quote which is set aside like this is, so whenever it's like a long quote, it's indented in, but don't forget also we need to have something that introduces the quote. And so that's what we have here. And it's typical, although not mandatory, but typical that you'll see a colon at the end up here to introduce the quote. Then it's indented in. We maintain the double spacing. I thus drew steadily near to the truth, by whose partial discovery I have been doomed to such a dreadful shipwreck, that man is not only one, but truly two. I say two, because the stage of my knowledge does not pass beyond that point. Others will follow. Others will outstrip me on the same lines, and I hazard the guess that man will ultimately be ultimately known for a mere policy of multifarious, incongruous, and independent denizens. Trying to do my best Spencer Tracy there. Sorry. Anyway, the quote, of course, expands on the idea that maybe instead of having just one or two, right, we'll have multiples. Stephen's intuition that a man made of two distinct sides was, in fact, an inadequate description of human nature has found support in more contemporary times, as scientists have come to analyze human psyche in more detail. The neuroscientist Kieran McNally laments the misuse of the idea of a Jekyll-Hyde personality to describe the condition of schizophrenia, pointing out that students of psychology are frequently warned not to make this mistake. 6972. By the way, if you're wondering why this is 69,72, it means the information is taken from two different pages. They're not sequential, okay, and they're not running one into the other. It's not 4 pages worth of material or 3 pages worth of material. It is just something on page 69, something on page 72. McNally's statement is an indication that using a dual personality to explore human nature may be inadequate for characterizing or explaining real psychological problems. The doppelganger may not convey with scientific accuracy the full scope of human personality. So that is a great concession paragraph, by the way. Really very nice. Then, however, we move into the main body. See where it says, despite these limitations, right, that kind of brings us from the concession now into the new idea. The double has been used effectively to explore emotions, for example, anger. Now we get a paragraph about anger. Now I'll let you on your own kind of do the hard work of reading through, because you don't need me to do that, especially now that we're in the 4th essay of the semester. But you see that this paragraph is going to talk about anger. And the Hulk, of course, is nothing if not anger. Oh my goodness gracious. And there's a quote here by Dworsky and Dworsky. By the way, this is what you do if you have 2 people with the same last name. For instance, perhaps a married couple who are writing. You don't just use one, you use both names. Don't say ampersand here, you use the word and. Okay. Then in the next topic sentence, we have a nice little transition. Like anger, Jekyll, Hyde, and the Hulk are both allegories that explore fear. Okay, boom. And then we have a nice quote from Adam Capitanio in the Journal of Popular Culture, indentation. There's my quote. Then there's some more analysis. There's another quote by Capitanio, I guess. In the representation of evil, the Hulk and Hyde are different. Hyde is clearly evil. Here the matter is reduced to purely moral terms. Hyde excites loathing because he is evil or satanic. That's from Man Love 94. Hyde is the embodiment of evil, which represents human nature in its primal state. Right? And it goes on to talk about Mr. Hyde. Then, in contrast, the writers of The Incredible Hulk are using the monster as the hero, doing battle with other evildoers, instead of representing the Hulk as the actual evil. And if you're not a comic book fan, and you haven't seen the Marvel movies, all 10,000 of them, I can just tell you that the Hulk is typically aligned with the forces of good. The Hulk is problematic, right? The Hulk has issues, but ultimately the Hulk serves in the purposes of good. Okay, so that's kind of the contrast. Then we have doppelgangers or doubles may not represent psychological conditions accurately, right? Yada, yada, yada. So this is the conclusion of this paper. Now, the one thing I would say, and I do point out that this paper was written a few years ago. It's a great paper, but it does need more. The one problem I have as a model is I don't want you to think that 1,203 words is acceptable for the final paper. The final paper of your semester must have at least 2,000 words. So this one was done when I didn't have that requirement. In fact, this wasn't the final paper of the semester for my students when this person was writing. We're excited. Look at that. Look how beautiful that is. Alphabetical order, hanging indentations, double spaced all the way through. Pretty damn nicely done works cited page. I think if you want, you could do a lot worse than what we see here. Okay. So, and I've seen a lot of students doing a lot worse than what we see right here. Okay. But this is a good model for you to follow. It may not be perfect, but it's pretty darn good.